Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Swedish on the home side and half American on the away side. The Swedish brewery has featured on the channel a good number of times before. This must be review number 25 or so involving this brewery, but the American brewery is one that I have never tried anything from before, and it's a bit of a sin actually, because these guys have, their beers have become a little bit easier to get over here in Europe over the last little while. So it's nice to finally get around to introducing these guys to you, and I do need to do some dedicated reviews to this brewery over the next little while, so you will see that come up. So for the Swedish side of things then, we are going to go to Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up on the west coast, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Stigbergets Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called Primal, and it's a Saison coming in at 5.5% ABV. The first Saison that I've had from Stigbergets, incidentally, and I've noticed that these guys are getting a little bit more adventurous with different styles recently. But this beer is produced in collaboration with Transient Artisan Ales, who come from Bidgman in the southwest corner of Michigan over in the US, very close to Chicago actually. So yeah, that brewery are very well known for, like, originally they were very well known for like sour beers, farmhouse ales, spontaneous fermentation, things like that, but more recently they have expanded to produce a host of different styles. I think they've got a lot of hazy IPAs and imperial stouts and things like this now. But yeah, a brewery, these guys have become a little bit more visible over here in Europe, so like I said, I do need to try and review a few of their beers and do some dedicated reviews to them on the channel over the next little while. But definitely a nice way to introduce the brewery for the first time on the channel, and I really hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. I'll need to see about getting some more transient beers for you over the next little while. But yeah, cool to try my first Saison from Stigbergets as well. This is a style that we don't get to review too many of these days, and people have been telling me this is a pretty nice beer. This one arrived in Sweden as part of the Lokal Småskaligt assortiment in Systembolaget. I want to say this one came out in April, so I have had this one in the fridge for about 2 and a bit months. It is a Saison, like I say, so it will be okay. You know, Saisons can last a couple of months in the cans and things like that. Sometimes, depending on how they're brewed, they can even get a little bit better if you put a little small bit of age on them, but you don't want to leave them too long, but they will last longer than the standard kind of New England or West Coast IPA. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So let's see how we go. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Transient Artisan Ales, the very first time I'm reviewing one of their beers for you here on the channel, hopefully not the last. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another list for all the American ones. Both of those are being added to very regularly, although the Swedish one more so. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. We'll start with the home brewery. So Stigbergets Bryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, and the company was founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Richard Simonsson, and the pair owned 2 bars that shared the one kitchen. This was the Bar Kino and the Hagabions Cafe, which are located on Linnagatan in the city, and both of these opened back in 2007. And the building that they're located in is actually an independent cinema, and I didn't know this until I actually went to visit it. It was a bit of a surprise when I went there, and I never made the connection between kino and cinema. But yeah, the original brewery was located in the independent cinema, which was pretty cool. But originally the idea that they had was to brew a few beers that they could sell in the 2 bars, and this led to them kind of kegging the beers and selling them on to other pubs before they eventually started bottling the beers in November of 2014. And after that they started to get their beers into Systembolaget, the national alcohol monopoly that we have here in Sweden. But the original beers that these guys were doing were mainly English and German styles, but of course the brewery really made their name when they converted to brewing the more hoppy American styles of beer. The original brewer was Ole Anderson, who is the co-owner of OO Brewing, where he now does everything, but he has since been replaced by Barnaby Struve for a small period of time, who used to be the vice president at Three Floyds. More recently though, they've opened up a new brewery at Partihalarna, where they brew 5,000 litre batches at a time, and they're also beginning to work on some sour beers as well. There have been a few sour beers released from these guys over the last little while, but they also started selling their beers mainly in the 440ml cans, because this is easier for them to export than the bottles, and they've got a brew team now at the brewery of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown Brewery in London, and also Lucas Munraid, who used to work for All In Brewing, one of the numerous gypsy brewers in the Gothenburg area. But they open up the brewery every so often to host a bar, and they've just opened up a bar in Stockholm as well, maybe about 2-3 months ago, so you can go up to Stockholm and try a number of the Stigbergets beers. But if you want to try them in Gothenburg, you do go, I would recommend that you go to the Bar Kino and the Hagabion's Cafe. So yeah, as of June 2020, when I'm producing this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 different types of beers, but I do suspect that number on Untappd is not accurate, because obviously they've been going for a little bit longer than that. Probably by the time you guys watch this video, which will be in July 2020, they will have produced around like 65 different beers or something. They are very prolific through the Lokaldas Moskva League assortment. They're always putting out 2 or 3 beers every month actually, and you will see more through July of course as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you at the moment about Stigbergets Bryggeri. A very, very well respected Swedish brewery. The well known beers from these guys of course are the GBG Beer Week, the Amazing Haze. You know, the GBG Beer Week beer was what really propelled this brewery to fame, if you like, and of course you've got the Narangi, which is Ole Anderson's own beer at OO Brewing, and you know, Amazing Haze is the one, as I say, that is the kind of cult classic for this brewery. So make sure you try Amazing Haze or the new and improved GBG Beer Week beer. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Stigbergets, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see about the American side of things then. On to Transient Artisan Ales. So Transient Artisan Ales, I'm probably going to mess up saying this during the video, because yeah, just the way it goes. But Transient Artisan Ales, as I mentioned to you earlier, are based in Bidgman in Michigan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It seems to me it seems like it's missing an E. So I don't know if you would say Bridgman or Bridgman. I'm not sure. But the company was founded by Chris Betts, and he started the brewery back in 2013. So he owns the company along with his girlfriend Rachel Weisner and also his friend Andy Lautner. German names, of course. But Chris originally comes from the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and he was a home brewer for about 7 years before he turned professional. So he operated Transient Artisan Ales as a gypsy brewery for the first few years, and he brewed mainly at 3 different breweries in the Chicago area. This was Aquanaut, One Trick Pony, and Hailstorm as well. But his focus originally was on Belgian-inspired farmhouse ales, saisons, and you know, things like this, and he was working a lot with spontaneous fermentation. But these days they also brew a lot of IPAs and stouts and things like that, and they do have quite an extensive barrel aging program. Over the first few years he used to deliver his beers to various kind of well-known beer bars around the city, and the brewery just kind of spread through word of mouth. But he eventually managed to start his own brewery to get his own physical space to brew in 2016. So the brewery is now based in Bridgman, as I said, and it's got a 4,600 square foot floor space. I'm not sure how we calculate that into normal people units, or the metric system as it's called. I never understand why Americans still use square feet and things like that. Some of the Americans have commented below and said freedom units, but yeah, square feet. But it says they've got a 4,600 square foot floor space in the brewery, and they've also got a 1,000 square foot tap room. I guess, yeah, I don't know, actually no, I can't think how you convert it. You know, a metre, 1 foot is like a third of a metre, so I don't know, maybe a 300 square metre. In fact, no, it would be less than that. It would be a factor of 9. You know, 100 square foot, 100 square metre. 100 square metre tap room or something like that. I'm not quite sure actually, but yeah, they boast a myriad of different barrels and things in which to age their beer. Lots of different spirits, you know, bourbon, I guess they've probably got, you know, bourbon, brandy, they've probably got a whole host of different things in there. But as I say, they have quite an extensive barrel aging program, and as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced in the region of 530 different beers according to Untappd. And I would guess that in the case of this brewery, that is probably pretty accurate, because I think Untappd, you know, especially when it's American breweries, the Americans are really on the Untappd thing. It's only it's only kind of spread to the rest of the world a little bit later than that, so I would guess the 530 figure is probably quite accurate, but I would guess a number of the beers are barrel aged versions of other beers as well. But yeah, a very, very well respected brewery, this one. As I said to you earlier, they have been getting a little bit more out there over here in Europe. I have seen some cans and things floating around, especially in Copenhagen, from Transient Artisan Ales, and I know some of the English guys in the beer tubing scene have been able to review some Transient beers as well. So yeah, definitely a brewery that I need to do a dedicated review to at some point soon. Originally well known for their farmhouse sour beers, as I said, but they have been brewing a few more kind of conventional things recently as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Transient Artisan Ales for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Check out all those links as I said. Let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. As you can see, it's got a nice, the artwork on this one is very nice. Primal. I don't know why they've called it Primal. Maybe they're fans of the Planet of the Apes or something like that. I still need to watch the third one of the new series actually. But yeah, maybe it is. I don't know if it is meant to just be, you know, like Odyssey 2. I don't know, Odyssey 2001 if I remember right. It's one of the ones that shows you them learning how to use tools and things for the first time. But yeah, I'm not sure if it is meant to be Planet of the Apes or if it is just meant to be, you know, prehistoric kind of thing. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, nice artwork on this one, as you always get from Stigbergets. It says the artwork on this one is by Martin Jakobsson, and he is a regular amongst the Stigbergets artists. But yeah, Stigbergets in collaboration with Transient Artisan Ales, the Primal Saison coming in at 5.5% ABV. So yeah, as I say, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. This one is of course one of these little 330ml Red Bull cans. I don't know what that would be in fluid ounces over in the States. I don't understand quarts, fluid ounces, cups and things like that. As I say, the Americans really just need to use the metric system. It makes much, much more sense. Although Americans, as I say, some of my American followers are like, we have freedom units. It's quite funny. I do like that. My American colleagues always used to say the same as well. And there you go. There is the nice haze that you expect of the Saison. So yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I did manage to get pretty much all of the sediment out of this one. You want the sediment when it is a Saison. As I said, this one has been sat in my fridge for maybe around 2 months. So yeah, that is kind of expected that the beer would sediment a little bit. But as you can see, we've poured it just as you would expect from a Saison. That was pretty damn nice actually. Really like that. So yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a Saison, this one has poured a lovely bright yellow colour. You find a lot of New England IPAs that are similar colours to this, but yeah, lovely bright yellow colour there. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one has that lovely kind of hazy quality that you expect. Of course, not as big and soupy and gloopy as you're going to get from one of the New England IPAs these days, but you can see there's a nice quarter finger of a frothy white head on this one. That's just fading away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. It's just got a little bit of a kind of foamy island in the middle of it now, and even that is kind of fading away actually. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it does look pretty nice, but nothing unexpected from this one in terms of appearance when you consider the fact that this beer is a Saison. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. I'm curious to see whether this is like a sour Saison or if it's a straight up Saison, of course. The Saisons, of course, were what the Belgian and Dutch farmers, I think some French farmers as well, this was the kind of beer that they used to brew for themselves. Yeah, this one is really nice. Yeah, to me this one doesn't really come across as a sour beer. It's got a little bit of kind of, it's got a wee bit of a kind of citrusy zest, and it almost becomes a little bit sharp. But I don't find this one overly, I don't really find it kind of overly citrusy or anything like that. But yeah, the aroma of this is very nice. I mean, straight away you're going to get that lovely big Belgian type doughy, bready, yeasty thing. So yeah, you can smell that lovely kind of white, doughy, bready yeast forming the backbone of the beer. There is a bit of a kind of more straight up white bready quality in there as well. It's got a little bit of a kind of almost clovey type spice to it. It definitely has a little bit of that. A few wee kind of banana esters and things. You know, all things that you would expect from a Saison. There is just a little bit of a kind of bubblegummy quality in there too. But I would say overall, it's really one of these beers where it's got a lot of small, very kind of small aromas to it that all group together into this one big backbone, if you like. So yeah, as I say, you've got that bit of doughy yeasty thing, a bit more of a kind of straight white bready character in there, some nice kind of clovey sort of spicy qualities, and then you've got a nice little bit of a kind of bubblegummy sweetness and a few maybe banana type esters there. That's all of those together are forming the backbone of this beer, but these are things that you always expect from a Saison. You know, it strikes me as a very kind of typical, traditional type Saison. And this is the interesting thing, you know, Stigbergets recently, they have been trying to brew, I have noticed, you know, they're brewing things like, they're brewing a few more kind of traditional beers and things like that, like lagers and stuff like this. So I do like it when these, you know, the craft breweries do have a go at brewing like a proper traditional type beer. So it's interesting to see what these guys come out with the Saison. Actually, I've got a feeling from the aroma this one is going to be like a straight up traditional type Saison. So yeah, always cool to see breweries doing stuff like this. I think it's a shame when styles like this are sort of forgotten about, but the aroma of this one is very nice. The malty yeasty backbone that this beer has comes across as being very, very smooth. There are a few little elements of an almost biscuity sweetness start to come out this one the more that you kind of linger over the aroma. I mean, it is actually very, very nice how all of this goes together. The aroma here is the malty yeasty part of the aroma, I think, is very nice. There's one or two little woody undertones to the beer, which I really, really like, and we've also got a little bit. There is almost a little bit of a slightly grainy type thing to this beer as well. I mean, I really like how this one goes together. Very traditional in terms of its very traditional in terms of how it appears on the malty yeasty side of things. On the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of an earthy quality to this one, some nice kind of floral aromaticity, but I would say the green side of the hops, it leans a little bit more towards the kind of grassy side of things. I'm not sure exactly what hops they would use in this one. I mean, they could use you know, Belgian hops, and Belgian hops always come across as being a little bit more they're like a cross between German hops and English hops, if you like. So they've got the kind of brighter floral and grassy side of things, you know, a la the German hops, but at the same time they've got a little bit more of the earthiness and herbal qualities a la the English hops. So usually Belgian hops find themselves somewhere in between. But I get the impression from this beer that it might be German hops that are in this one, because they are distinctively brighter. It could be a mixture of German and American hops in this one, which I think... yeah, it could be a mixture of German and American hops in this. So yeah, I think maybe a German hop is the base and an American one in there, just to give it a little bit more sort of aroma and things like that. I don't know, maybe a little bit of Centennial or something like that. It could have a little bit of Centennial just to give it a wee bit more of a kind of zesty edge. Centennial, of course, will give you some lovely lemony zesty type qualities. But yeah, it's got a lovely bright kind of floral character to it, this one. A little bit of a citrusy, zesty, grassy kind of note as well. But on the fruity side of things, as I say, you've got a few kind of, you know, you've got a little bit of an almost peary ester sitting underneath this one. There's a little bit of an apricot-y quality. You've got the bananas from the more yeasty side of things. But yeah, on the hoppy side of it, a little bit of pear, a little bit of a kind of apricot-y note, and as I say, a wee bit of that kind of lemony, citrusy, grassy type ester coming out of it too. So yeah, as I say, if you know this style, there's nothing particularly surprising about the aroma, but I will say for a Saison, it's got a very, very nice aroma. One of my favourite breweries back in Scotland, of course, was 6 Degrees North, and they had a lovely Saison which was called 4 Saisons. I really, really liked that one. I think I reviewed that beer a good while back, actually. But yeah, let's see how we go with this one then. Very, very curious to see how it turns out. So yeah, let's have a taste of this then and see how we get on. So this one is the Primal, a 5.5% Saison from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, brewed in collaboration with Transient Artisan Ales from Bidgman in the very southwest corner of Michigan, quite close to Chicago over in America. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål. My first Saison in a long time actually. Do give me some Saison recommendations in the comment section below. Yeah, it is definitely. It's like it is definitely a. It's meant to be a traditional saison. This it definitely meant to be a a solid traditional saison. And as you'd expect, when it's Stigbergets that are involved, it's pretty damn solid. These guys are good at doing the traditional styles of beer. I'd love to see Stigbergets do a Scotch ale, do my native beer style, or do a Doppelbock as well, or even a Belgian quadruple. I'd love to see them do more Belgian styles of beer. But yeah, the Transient Artisan Ales, as I said, they have a reputation for these kind of beers, and this makes me curious to see what their other beers are like actually. So yeah, need to see about getting some of these the next time I make it to Chicago. But yeah, the flavour of this is really nice, very traditional and pretty much straight up. So let's try and break that down for you and just describe it a little bit more. So yeah, straight away with this beer then, you can feel a little bit of that kind of pale malty quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, as you go further into the aftertaste, you can feel the yeasty notes kind of coming out of this one a little bit more. If you go towards the back third of your tongue, I think there's a bit more of a wheaty kind of bitiness to this beer. I really think it's got more of that coming out of it. Does it say that it's got wheat in it? Yes, it does. It says it's got dinkel wheat in it. So I'm guessing by that name, that might be a special variety of wheat from the Dutch-speaking region of Belgium, Vlaanderen. Yeah, so I'm guessing the name of that wheat sounds Dutch. So maybe they have actually brought in some kind of Belgian, Flemish, I guess you could say, Flemish wheat. Does sound kind of Dutch actually, Dutch Flemish. But yeah, the wheatiness in this one, you do get a bit of that more bitey, wheaty quality towards the kind of back of the palate there, and that lingers into the aftertaste. The wheat has a little bit of almost kind of a astringent quality to it. It's got a nice kind of almost, can you say, aromaticity. It's got a little bit of that kind of quality to it. But yeah, in the middle of your palate, this is where the middle third of your tongue, this is where you're going to get the most complexity out of this beer. So as I say, you've got a bit of a pale malty base. You can feel the wheat kind of sitting in there as well, but then the nice yeasty characters, they sort of just blanket over that. So you get that lovely, more kind of doughy, that kind of more doughy, yeasty quality sitting on top of that, the more straight up kind of white bready characters in there, and then in the very centre of your palate you get a little bit of a kind of oily, it's almost like you've got a circle in the kind of centre of your tongue. You get that more kind of oily, biscuity, McVitie's digestive type biscuity quality coming out of this one. So I really like how that kind of places together on this one. I like how that kind of, pardon me, integrates into the flavour of this beer. Yeah, I do like how this. I really do like how this goes together. It's really nice. Say the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel a bit more of the wheaty character just pushing its way through all those yeasty notes that I've described to you. I think the beer, it does have a little bit of a kind of spicy note to it. Maybe I'm almost tempted to say the flavour is like pepper. It's almost a little bit peppery, but it's just a bit smoother, if that makes sense. It's not quite as abrupt, if you like, as a straight up pepper. So there is a wee bit of a spicy character there with the yeast too, but I think the kind of almost oily McVitie's digestive biscuity thing in this comes across really, really nicely. So yeah, this beer, it does get a little bit sweeter, I think, the further you go into the aftertaste, but around the kind of around that sort of centre biscuity island, if you like, you can feel the more doughy, yeasty qualities. It's almost like the middle of your palate kind of thickens up a wee bit with this one. But if you go to the front corners of your palate and then move back diagonally, I think you start to get, there's a wee tiny touch of a slightly woody undertone to the beer, and you often get that from these kind of Saison yeasts. The farmhouse yeasts have got, they're basically, I think quite a lot of them are open fermentation, so they really evolve in very interesting ways. The Kveik yeasts that you get from Norway, the Norwegian farmhouse yeasts, those are very interesting, but the Belgian ones, of course, they're a bit kind of smoother, I think, and less fruity than the Norwegian ones. But yeah, as you can kind of tell, in the middle of your palate there is quite a lot going on, but generally speaking, I find this to be quite a bright citrusy, but also at the same time very smooth Saison. The focus obviously is in the middle of your palate, because this is Belgian beer is always very yeast forward. The focus in Belgian beer is on the yeast, but this one gets a thumbs up from me. I really like this. This is a nice, almost it's quite a bold, I would say that this is quite a bold Saison, but as I say, I've not had Saisons in a long time, so I do need to review maybe some of the classics like Saison Dupont and things like that from Belgium, and get a bit more acquainted with this style. It's a style I have neglected on the channel, but I really like this one. Big thumbs up to both Stigbergets and Transient Artisan Ales. They've pulled off a solid beer here. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice, quite smooth earthiness. It's got a bit of brightness to it as well, in fairness. As you move further forward from that, it gradually gets a little bit more kind of herbal, and then the smoothness continues, and as you reach the front corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity there. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit more kind of lighter and grassy, in my opinion, and it does have a bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty quality around the front part of the palate as well. But on the front third of the tongue, as I always say, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And yeah, you get some really nice fruity notes out of this one. So when you take it in, you do get some, as you move further forward, as you reach the border between the middle third of your palate and the kind of front third of your tongue, you get this almost kind of like spongy, cakey, bready mix of things in there. So on the border you've got that, and within that, that's where you get the sort of the slightly banana-y type flavours, the kind of bubblegummy notes. So there is a bit of a kind of candied flavour to this, but then in front of that, when you actually move into the front third of your tongue proper, that's when you get the more fruity notes out of this one. So for me, there is a bit of a kind of apricot-y note to this one. There's a kind of perry ester in there as well, but there is quite a, it's like a slightly smoother, it's not quite a sharp lemon, but it's got this really kind of almost lemony, citrusy zest quality to it, but as I say, not as sharp as a kind of straight up lemon in my mind. But yeah, a mix between, as I say, you've got the bananas at the back, the more apricot-y notes in front of that. I don't know if you could say, I don't think mango in this one, I do think more apricot-y, and then you've got a little bit of kind of perry ester in there as well, and then the lemony zest. So yeah, going from back to front, bananas, apricots, pears, and then the more kind of lemony, zesty note on the very kind of tip of your tongue. It's nice how these fruity characters come out, and the sort of lemony zest that the beer has comes out and mixes in with the kind of grassy esters you're getting around the front edge of your tongue too. But yeah, the flavour of this beer I think is really nice. This is a very nice take on the traditional Belgian Saison. So yeah, I think this one is nice. I think it was the Swedish guys on Instagram, the likes of Beer Hedonist and Beerpix.se and Mr. Solberry, Andreas Solberry and things. These guys, it was one of them. I talk to all three of them quite regularly. I always forget who tells me what, but these three guys are great at keeping me up to date with the Swedish beer scene. So do make sure you give these guys a follow on Instagram, Beer Hedonist and Mr. Solberry, and then also Beerpix.se. These three guys are really great for keeping up to date on the Swedish beer scene. But one of these guys was telling me that this was an awesome beer, and they were right. So again, a shout out to these guys. I've given these guys shout outs at different points, but they called this one really nicely. This is a solid take on the Saison style of beer, so check this one out for yourselves. I think this is really good. But yeah, on the mouthfeel side of things then, we've covered the flavour quite a bit. Mouthfeel wise, I think this one, it's definitely not the thickest Saison that I remember having, and I think this is maybe the fact that it's a Nordic beer, it's brewed in Scandinavia, So the water automatically will feel a little bit cleaner and the beer will feel a bit thinner. I said the same about the likes of the 6 Degrees North beers. I always think the further north the beer is brewed, the kind of lighter and cleaner it tastes almost. But yeah, for me, I'd say that this is at the bottom end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth, and you've got a nice kind of clean mouthfeel to it. Doesn't really have an oily note, yeah, quite a clean and almost crisp tasting Saison, this one. So yeah, it has all the flavour you'd expect though. I mean, in the middle of your palate you've got a lovely kind of smoothness to it, you've got a little touch of sweetness there, but you do have a little bit of an almost bitey quality from the wheat and the kind of astringency that brings, and also some of the doughy qualities as well. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think we're talking about 25 IBUs with this one. It does have a wee bit of a hoppy quality to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there is Centennial hop in this one, just because of how much, you know, with kind of citrusy zest it has. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of that to give it more of a lemony character. But it suits it very nicely. So yeah, hoppy bitterness I would say about 25 IBUs. Some nice kind of juicy but also quite bright and zesty fruits in this one. And yeah, as I say, the malt base is mainly smooth because of the yeasty backbone that the beer has, and you've just got a little touch of sweetness to it as well. But yeah, I really like how this one goes together. It gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is a really nice take on a traditional kind of Belgian Saison, I would say. So yeah, let's leave it there. So this one was the Primal, a 5.5% Saison from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, brewed in collaboration with Transient Artisan Ales from Bidgman, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the southwest of Michigan over in America. But yeah, a really interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad that I was able to review this for you. I do need to do more dedicated reviews to Transient Artisan Ales, and I also need to review some more Saisons for you as well, obviously, because it's a style that I do like, but it's just one that you don't come across very often these days. The focus, of course, is on these big, you know, fruited Berliner Weisses and Goses and things like that, the New England IPAs, and of course you're getting a lot of pastry stouts and things like this now as well, so it's always nice to go back and try the traditional styles of beer as well. But yeah, let's leave it at that. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets Bryggeri as well as Transient Artisan Ales. Hopefully I can return to Transient soon. You will see more Stigbergets reviews coming up very soon, but this was a nice one to review, and as I say, I hope you enjoyed it. So check out my social media, check out Stigbergets Bryggeri, check out Transient Artisan Ales. This one was the Primal, a 5.5% Saison, and it turned out very, very nicely. So thank you again for watching, and until the next time, Slange, Skål, cheers. Make sure you check out the Primal from Stigbergets in Gothenburg here in Sweden, and Transient Artisan Ales from Bidgman, Michigan over in America. Cheers.